Chattanooga the right place for you guys to move, you and your family, or maybe just you yourself? Well, I got some news, because there's some interesting weather patterns, there's some interesting traffic patterns, there's some pros and cons to living in Chattanooga, and we're going to cover all those, everything from every aspect of how it's like to live in Chattanooga. So you're going to want to stick around till the very end, because I'm going to reveal one thing that most people don't even think about. But number one on my list is weather. You have to understand the weather of Chattanooga. It's not like most other places. When you're in Tennessee, the climate can make it feel as if it's a little hotter than normal during the summertime. Summertimes are humid. We usually get into the 90s, and don't go above maybe 95 or so, that's unusual. But if it is 90s, it's gonna feel hotter than what you're typical used to if you're in a dry climate like California. But on the flip side, if you're coming from Florida or if you're coming from Texas, it's not gonna be as hot, and it's actually gonna be a little bit cooler than normal. Also in the wintertime, we get more rain than we do snow. So if you're used to snow plowing in Chicago or the rainy seasons that actually turn into snow, that lake effect snow that you get in Maine or the New England area, we don't get that here. In fact, we get more soggy, wet, cold weather in the wintertime than usual. However, that's a pro, because you also get to have more beautiful, mild climates, because it's an even temperature back and forth all year round. You're not gonna get your negative 20s. You're gonna go down, maybe, if you're lucky, you might hit the 20s. And what's neat about Tennessee is that they have no idea what to do with snow. If we get a dusting of snow, everything shuts down. You don't take the kids to school. It's just done, because we don't have the snow plows like we do in Chicago or New York or Illinois, all those other places that know how to deal with snow. We don't. So we just don't do it. No snow here, because it's a rare occasion when it does happen. And that mild climate can make way for a myriad of activities all year round, because oftentimes Tennesseans like to go camping when it's still a little bit cooler outside, and the climate really adds to that, because it's an outdoorsy state. You're not gonna get the extremes of the weather, the too hots or too colds. It's gonna be right there, right in between, where you have all four seasons, which is what people really like and why people live here. And continuing along with that same weather idea, you're also gonna get allergies. Because in the spring you got cedar, you got oak, you got hickory, all the trees that bloom in the spring and have that pollen that's sent out. It can be overwhelming for some people. In fact, my wife gets a Kenalog shot. This is not medical advice, but it actually boosts and helps with her allergies out here, because she's not used to it, and it really does affect her. But it helps, that one shot helps all year round. And again, not medical advice, seek your medical professional, but it's something that has helped her. Something that I've noticed out here, you also have mold spores and molding areas, because it's so damp. Lots of damp areas out here, because it's more tropical than it is dry, like if you were in the west side of the nation. When you are dealing with housing and trying to find a house, make sure you check for water leaks and mold, because mold is a big thing out here. And these mold spores, they can really affect your health. And so it's important to check for that. And if you're allergic and have a lot of conditions like mold, then just keep that in mind when you are coming out to Tennessee. But because of the dampness we have out here, it produces greenery that's just beautiful, making this a scenic city of sorts that lets you see things that you normally wouldn't see around the nation, because of how luscious it is. And so that's a huge pro to the weather out here. So let's pause right here just for a second and think about moving to Chattanooga. Because I'm a real estate agent, I can find you the best spot. So reach out to me. My number's right here. You should call me, text me, or you can email me and in the description below, and I'll be happy to help you find your ideal place in the scenic city of Chattanooga. Another thing people always talk about is the prices of houses. Things out here have really increased in price quite a bit. And just a few years ago, it seems that you could buy a house for a lot less than you can now. We bought a property for about $150,000, 10 acres. And now it's gone up significantly. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing, because it's a good thing that it's going up in value, so you definitely want to get on it, so that when the economy continues to go up like this, you can have a property and it's up in value. But at the same time, as the interest rate goes down, house prices continue to go up, and you have seen the interest rate go down right now. So it's something to keep in mind, because one of the cons of coming to Tennessee is that a lot of people are moving to Chattanooga, and it's causing the house prices to go up. The median house price in Chattanooga was $137,000 back in 2012, but now it's $305,000 in 2022, which is not when we made this video, but that's when I got my data, making it 122% change in value, and it has gone up a little bit since then. So it's important to buy early, otherwise you might lose out on the prices of the houses going up. That's just one of those things. As the interest rate goes down, so the prices of the house goes up, and they have been going down. Another con to living in Tennessee is the job market. Sometimes you might have a harder time finding work out here. The average salary out here right now is about $49,000, and that's down from $59,000 as the national average. But Chattanooga has a lower cost of living, so about 8% lower. So when you take all that into effect and you see that it has no state income tax, it kind of all evens out in the end. You get to have a beautiful place to live, and it's less costly. There's also less higher paying jobs out here. Even though there's huge companies out here like Volkswagen, there's Kennison, there's CHI Memorial Hospitals, there's McKee Foods, also known as Little Debbie Snack Cakes. There's all kinds of big Amazon's out here as well, Amazon Shipping Center. And so there's plenty of work, but there's not a lot of higher up jobs out here. And so if you're looking for that high paid job, this is more manufacturing than high paid job. You can't find that specific specialty that you might find elsewhere in the bigger cities. Something else people complain about is traffic. Now, you go to LA or you go to the bigger cities, you're gonna have a lot more traffic than you're gonna sit in hours and hours of traffic. But out here in Tennessee, we still have a little bit of traffic. It's still congested at times. There's still construction going on because the city is growing. And in the city, you're gonna have that long commute time around 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock a.m. because that's what happens when a lot of people get on the road. You get stuck in traffic, especially around these construction areas where they have a lot of that stuff happening. But everyone says it's nothing like Atlanta traffic. It's nothing like Nashville traffic out here. It's definitely nothing like Los Angeles. So speaking of transportation, if you're used to the public transportation of New York City or Chicago, or the subway or the bus systems that run all around the city, we don't have as good of a robust system like that as the rest of the city. Although we're working on that, but the cities around the nation have a little bit better public transportation than Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's just not set up for that, so you'd have to get your own car. And I know a lot of people coming from those places that have amazing public transportation might not even have a license, especially if you're in New York City. It's impossible to get around the middle of the city when you're doing it yourself. So public transportation is huge, but out here we don't really have that, especially out in the rural areas. Another thing to think about is the risk of natural disasters. Now, we don't have the tornadoes of the Midwest. We don't have the hurricanes of Florida. We don't have the risk of freezing inside your house of the New England states and Maine and those areas. We don't have the earthquakes of California. But every once in a while, we will have flooding. We will have a tornado. But that's pretty much it. We don't get a lot of earthquakes out here. If we do, I think it's been hundreds and hundreds of years since we've had one. And if there is some kind of earthquake or something, it's minimal. And you can just like, what was that? Did you feel something? I don't know what that was. That's happened maybe once in my lifetime living here. And so I've encountered much bigger ones in other states inside the United States than Tennessee. But there has been sometimes significant tornadoes that have come through, but those come through a very small section of the city or don't even hit the city at all, and you hear about it. But there is oftentimes, you think about that. Florida has a lot of lightning. Some places in the US have more lightning than others. We tend to have some lightning. It does happen, but it's not anything to worry about. But the biggest risks out here is flooding, which the city of Chattanooga has mitigated through a system called TVA, which stands for the Tennessee Valley Authority. And this system has a system of blocks and dams and things like that to mitigate the amount of water that comes through the city. And they implemented that before I was born, which, by the way, is a great place to work too, I hear. Another thing to think about is the limited retail stores. You might be used to going to a specific store that you know well. Out here, we don't really have that. It's more mom and pop shops, although we do have a lot of chains. And those chains are like Taco Bell and the typical things that are all around, Starbucks. But if you're used to a specific chain or a luxury chain, don't plan on finding that anywhere out here. We have maybe 1 or 2 malls in Chattanooga. There's one in Cleveland, I think, as well. And they're not huge. They're big, they're not huge. And so if you're used to that big city feel of going to that nice, fancy mall type places, you should come check these out first and see what you think about them, because they're not fancy, but they're adequate. And finally, one of the things that I find the most interesting out here is, since it's a very outdoor state, you got to watch out for some poisonous things. Like if you're coming from Hawaii where you have no snakes, or you're coming from a place that is very limited on the amount of danger you'll encounter, you got to think about things like bear. Bear are prevalent, although not as prevalent in Chattanooga, but they are up north in the more country areas. You got to think about that. You got to think about snakes. We have copperheads, we have rattlesnakes, we have brown recluses, spiders. I even saw for the first time in my life in Tennessee, I saw a scorpion in my house, and it was just a baby scorpion like this, but I'm thinking, this is from Australia. What's going on here? Why do we have scorpions in our house? So I had to get the pest control to make sure there's no more scorpions around the house. But it's rare that you'll encounter that. In fact, I've been out here for several years now, and I haven't seen one snake. Now, snakes usually live around rocky areas, so maybe I'm not in the rockiest area of Tennessee. You do have to watch out for things. You have to make sure you're wearing your boots if you're in the country. And that's it. So if you want to find your perfect spot in the scenic city and you think that this might be it for you, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, or give me a call right here in the info, and I'll help you find your perfect spot in the scenic city. We'll see you next time.